My name's Criscuolo. So I'm originally from Connecticut. I moved to San Diego in February of 2006. When I was back east, I grew up surfing in Rhode Island. And we used to go surfing all the time after rainstorms, after hurricanes came through. Didn't really give it much thought. When I moved to California, I operated under the same premise and ended up getting extremely sick after surfing just after a rainstorm in Del Mar. And that, I didn't really understand at first. I just figured I was homesick or adjusting to a new climate. But then I learned more and more about what happens after it rains in California, that you can't go in the ocean for 72 hours, that there's a high pollution load that comes in after rainstorms. And it got me on a visceral level. I love to surf. I had moved to this beautiful new land. I didn't know anybody here, and I did it to surf. And now I found restrictions on when I could surf. I just didn't accept that. So I got involved with the Surf Rider Foundation. The more I learned through Surf Rider, the more engaged and sort of the more concerned I became. Around the same time, I got involved with the Equinox Center, and I really liked it because it sort of hit that fine balance between economic growth but environmental sustainability, which are two pretty important things to me. Since then, I've started another nonprofit organization with a good friend of mine called Below the Surface. We're focused on showing people how the things that happen upstream, like little things we do in our day-to-day life, over-fertilizing our yards, not caring properly for our cars, not cleaning up after our pets, how all those little things can build up in the aggregate, affect water quality conditions on the coastline. So we've got a beautiful surf break here. This is Sunset Cliffs. This is actually the first place that I really kind of felt at home in when I moved to San Diego. But there's a big issue that we see in the water community that affects water quality out here as a surfer, and that is what happens upstream. There's a lot of rivers in Southern California that have been paved over time to make more room for development. It worked from a development perspective, but it hasn't worked from an environmental perspective. It's fairly dry out here. It only rains a handful of days a year, but when it does, all the pollution from our roads, so brake dust, and there's bits of copper and all sorts of things in brake dust, there's oil from our cars, fertilizer from our lawns, animal waste, all that kind of collects and rushes into these concrete channels and runs straight out into the ocean. So as a surfer, you get really intimately familiar with the effects of pollution, because you sort of get this melt-off effect of all this pollution garbage that runs through our yards, through our neighborhoods, down into the lowest areas of relief, which are rivers. And then that comes straight out to the coastline, and because it only happens a few times a year, and there aren't any marshlands or buffer zones here, turbo loads in the water, and you get these really heavy pollution concentrations hitting at once. That makes us sick, so the county health department generally advises don't go in the water for 72 hours after surfing. Groups like the Equinox Center do a lot of great work on the policy level, and it's really a 30,000 foot view of how we can live life better in San Diego, more sustainably, economically, environmentally. But we've all got to remember, as individual citizens, there's a lot that we can do, and it's not always just the little thing that we do, but oftentimes it's people seeing what we do. And you can see down here on the beach, people left a whole bunch of plastic and garbage down there. When you see something like that, all you gotta do is pick up a few things. There's a kid in Del Mar who put together a video when he was 12 called Pick Up 3 and the Difference You Will See. And that's what it comes down to, is everyone engaging as individual citizens for the betterment of our community.